Hi, we're going to take a look at the symmetry menu in a little more detail. But before we do, we're just going to go ahead and open up a project that we've been using recently, and that is our 2D image to 3D mesh generator. This is kind of all ready to go here, and we're going to add in using our masking stamp tool. I've renamed it mask extract because really what we're doing here is we're creating a mask, and then we're using it to then extract. I'm going to create a freestanding piece of material here. So I'm going to come up to the stroke alpha menu and just pick on alpha, and actually the alpha that's in here right now is the one that I want to be able to use. So I'm just going to drag this onto the canvas. It's in an unmasked mode, so I'm going to toggle that. That was here on the left. So I'm just going to redo it. I'm going to drag this onto the canvas. There we go. Notice that this has gradients in this image. So you can bring in gradients and they will actually work, which is really cool. And if you turn on height and mask, so the difference is that if we were to look at this in kind of a pseudo 3D and turn on this thickness, it's giving you a sense that with just height by itself, it's going to do this, okay? If you turn on height and mask, it's going to create this, the pseudo effect, okay? So this is probably about where I want it, and I'll just say extract, and I just use, let me back up one time here, because the other function here is that you do have smoothness turned on, and I've got all. So there's a little bit of smoothing that I can turn this up a little ways. And we'll just say extract. And it just creates a little cleaner version of itself. So when this is finished, we're done with the mask extract portion. We can just hide the original canvas. We can rename this Dragon. Okay. And then if we come over and look at this to the right side, the back's kind of plain. So, and it's a little thicker than I really wanted, so I'm just going to come in and kind of scale it down just a little bit, and then that's good. All right, so that looks nice. So I like that. I'm very happy with it. But what I want to do now is use the symmetry and look at how we can do things with symmetry. So I'm going to turn off the gizmo. And notice I don't have symmetry enabled for the effect, but I can turn on the planes. And the planes, this is the magic for the visualization here, is that the planes will show up on screen, but without symmetry actually being effective. So having these turned on in your part, you have to do it in a per part mode, is helpful. The other piece I'm going to point out here is that, as we saw in our simple version of the symmetry menu, there's also the local versus world origin, and this just happens to be that if I was to pick this piece and come over to Gizmo, and this will be a whole nother subject, but if we were to say pivot and say go to center and align itself, center and align, okay, center, align, yep, and come over and say move origin. The center of this guy is sitting in the center of the black. Okay, so, or the center of the world, okay, in our world origin. So now what I want to do is I want to, instead of having a blank back, I want to get the same texture onto the opposite side. As we learned before in symmetry, we can come in and we can flip about Z, and it flipped it, but it didn't make a copy on the opposite side. So that's where the center section is going to come into play, and by enabling this, actually you don't even have to have it enabled. You pick the axes that you want this to work on, and in this case, I'm going to use world. It could be local as well because I've already moved it and they match. So that's kind of irrelevant. But the main thing we're going to do right now is we're going to end up coming in and doing mirror topology. Now, when I did it, let's see, why didn't it come between X and front? Z, or flipping. So Z's up and down. Y. So in this particular case, my origin is not quite correct. So what I want to do here is I want to come in and set this to Y and then do mirror. And then, so now what it's done is it's taken a copy of it from the one side over to the other, which is exactly what I wanted. And it looks really nice. Turn off the Gizmo. I guess we don't need Gizmo on for any reason. The mask extract tool is still in effect. But in essence right now, I got the result that I wanted. This would make a really nice, dangler earring, and it's really that simple. And that's really showing the function of the symmetry. Now to go one step further, let's have these planes enabled so we know where they're at, and we're looking at world. If I was to come into the Gizmo and then just drag this part over, I'm going to go just past center. And see how the markers are still here in the center? Okay. All right. So I've moved it just past center. Okay. And then this is the fun part, is that we want to pick the axis that it's applicable to and say mirror. And now you have two charging dragons facing each other. And that's where kind of the fun and the magic kicks in. Okay? So I use the Gizmo just to get it past center. But now, actually, when we look at local, it's still kind of the same. But yeah, okay, well, that part of it, the method didn't really matter. But yeah, so I flipped a copy from front to back, and then I moved it off in center using the Gizmo, just enough to where it was just past the center line. Well, we can turn that back on. Here we go. So I used the reference marks here to be able to see. I moved them just enough one way, and then I did a mirroring with only the X on and tap mirror, and I didn't even have to have this enabled, okay? Because the mirroring works independent of it. So the symmetry enabled up here has to do more with the brushes. But isn't that cool? I've got two charging dragons ready to go. My gosh, who's going to win? At this point, I think what we need to do is we need to come in and do something, one final step. Yes, indeed, this is really calling for it. So now, if we come in and we use select mask, and I'll just use rectangle, not centered, just come over and do it like this. And then I'll say, come up and we'll do, oh my gosh, we want to do split. Yep. And so we'll just do the split, and then oh my God, what did I just do? Oh, it blew it up into all the kinds of little pieces. So I'm just gonna go back, eliminate that. What I was wanting to do anyways here was to come in and pick a different material. So I'm struggling with this separation here. Oh, I know what I'm supposed to be doing here. So I would come in and I would hide the one side. So I'd mask it and then say split. All right, so now they're two separate objects. Okay, apologize for that. And so going back to the color effect, and you want to make sure when you're doing color, you don't have this global turned on. So we'll pick one that'll be yellow. Oh, because they're both selected. Okay, so we'll come back and we'll pick one that's going to be yellow. All right, good. And then we'll come back to the first one in the list, and we'll make that one red. There we go. Good. Perfect. And now we have two separate ones. Now who's going to win, yellow or orange? So that's kind of cool. And that's pretty much it on the symmetry. So we're going to call it quits right here. And that's the advanced one. And again, we were using the main function area was this mirroring in the center. Yep. That's what we're using. Okay. All right. Go back and watch the video again and see if it makes sense. All right. Thank you. Bye.